Hi everyone, thanks for joining us today. Today we're going to be spending some time on conducting surge testing with the Haefely AXOS 8. We'll begin the video by going over some of the connections on the front and the back of the unit. Next, we'll go ahead and we'll take a look at selecting different testing criteria using the front panel display. And then finally, we'll go ahead and we'll run a test. The Haefely AXOS 8 provides capabilities for 7 kV combination wave surge testing, 5.5 kV EFT or burst, and 7 kV ring wave. This system has a built-in coupling decoupling network designed for testing both AC and DC power lines. Let's go ahead now and let's take a little closer look at the front of the unit. Here's the front of the Haefely AXOS 8. Let's go ahead now and let's start from the left and let's work our way right. On the left side, in the upper left-hand corner, we have our touch display. And then below that, we have a series of monitoring ports. In the lower left-hand corner, we have our USB connection, as well as our off-on button. As we work our way right towards the center of the unit, we have our surge direct outputs. These should not be connected directly to an external supply voltage or the generator will be damaged. If you are conducting power on testing, the EUT needs to be run through the CDN. To the right of that, we have our burst output, which is commonly connected to a capacitive coupling clamp for testing data or I/O lines. And then finally, all the way on the right, we have our coupling decoupling network connections, and this is where the EUT will be plugged in. We provide an adapter with the unit, and it should look something like this right here. And you can see on one end we have our banana style connectors, and that will plug in the coupling decoupling network on the front. And then we have our female NEMA socket, and that's just going to allow you to plug in your equipment under test directly into the adapter. This allows for really easy testing if your EUT uses a standard 120 volt mains outlet, which is common here in the US. Let's go ahead now, let's get the unit turned around and take a look at the backside. All right, here's the back of the AXOS 8 test system. Starting on the left, we have the banana style connectors for the EUT supply input. As we work our way right, we have our VDIP. To the right of that, we have our HVDC output. Finally, all the way on the right, we have the link, aux, and RJ45 Ethernet connection. The RJ45 is typically used for connection to a laptop with the remote software. Finally, all the way on the lower right-hand corner, we have our sync BNC connection. Let's go ahead now, let's get the system turned on, and let's take a look at the display. All right, here's the starting display of the AXOS 8. You can see we have different icons for surge, EFT or burst, voltage dips, magnetic field, and ring wave. Let's go ahead now and let's take a look at surge. All right, here's our surge menu. You can see we have a series of boxes along the top as well as on the right side. In the middle of the screen, we have a visual representation of the waveform, and then just below that, we have the testing criteria. When you do change the different criteria and select the title, you'll see it indicated on the waveform. So let's go ahead now and let's click number of surges. And you can see, just like that, now it's indicating the number of surges on the waveform shown. Let's go ahead now and let's take a look at the top. There we have test mode, trigger, coupling configuration, transition, and properties. Let's go ahead and let's click on the output and coupling paths. Here's our output and coupling paths menu. We have our output and then our coupling paths on the right. One thing that you do want to notice is we do have our radio buttons for IEC and ANSI coupling all the way on the right. Now to go ahead and change the coupling paths, all you have to do is use the touch panel and select the appropriate configuration. So let's go ahead now, let's unselect the line to neutral and let's change it to line to PE. Now let's go ahead and let's click OK. All right, so now you should see that change on that fourth button at the top. You see line to PE indicated. All right, so let's go ahead now and let's take a look at the different testing criteria below the waveform. First, we have our peak voltage, which is currently set at 6,000 volts. Let's go ahead and change that to 6,500. So to do that, select the value and then make the necessary adjustments. There we are. Now we're going to go ahead and hit OK. Now you should see that indicated just below the waveform. We're going to keep the line synchronization at 90 degrees. We currently have a repetition rate of 30 seconds, and then we have a number of surges set at 4. Let's go ahead now. Let's change the number of surges to 5. Again, just by selecting the criteria and then making the adjustment. All right, now you should see the changes in the different testing criteria. Taking a look along the right side, we have line, start, file, and home. The line is going to allow power through the coupling decoupling network, allowing you to turn on or power up your equipment under test. And then just below that, we have start. Let's go ahead now. Let's get our equipment. We're going to be subjecting the surge to connected, and then let's go ahead and let's run the test. All right, so we've connected the device we're going to use for testing today. Now let's go ahead and let's power it on by hitting the line icon in the upper right corner. And when you do, you should see a flashing red icon as well. And then taking a look at our device, it has been powered on. Now let's go ahead and let's hit the start button to begin the test. All right, so now let's go ahead, let's let the test run, and let's come back once it's been completed. All right, as you can see on the display right now, the test has been completed. That should complete the video today on using the AXOS 8 test system to conduct surge testing. We began the video by walking through a little bit about the unit, including the connections on the front and the back. Then we moved to changing testing criteria through the front panel display. And then finally, we went ahead and ran and completed a test. We hope this video has been useful, and please keep us in mind if you ever need to rent the Haefely AXOS 8.